Her story deals with a subculture of heavy metal music that some feel is sending a dangerous message to your kids.
The forces of evil on the dark side of devil rock.
And I want to talk tonight about the devil and demons and witches and wizards.
And we just mix it up with hardcore and aggression and come out with something we think's an original sound.
Loud, fast, heavy, you know.
Well, what do you got?
What do you got?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Riff Worship, a podcast where we talk about riffs and people that make riffs and people that sometimes don't make riffs. Before we get into the introduction and the niceties, I do want to say we're recording this on June 19th, so happy Juneteenth. And I don't know how many non-white people listen to the show, probably not many, but if there are any black people listening, thank you for existing. But having said that, I'm Justin Swindle. I'm very old. I'm joined by my best friends, Dylan Adams, who's also very old and bald.
Yep.
And Austin Paulson, who doesn't think he's very old.
I'm getting there.
But he is.
Oh, yeah. It hurts.
31 the knees go.
You ever like try to put on your socks now?
So
that's what gets you
tight.
I used to make
tight.
fun of my grandfather with a shoe spoon, and now I get it. Shoe goes on, shoe comes off. Shoe goes on, shoe comes off.
How's everything been?
It's been good. I'm glad to be talking about this record today because it ain't going to take that long. I was editing that last episode to the wire.
Yeah.
It was, woof.
Long record, long episode. Dylan.
How
are you? How's everything going in your world?
Good. Busy. Really busy. New pup. Still getting used to it. He's still getting used to the world around him. Poor little bastard. Bless his heart.
He doesn't know a damn thing. Sweet kid.
Sweet kid. Yeah. Been going pretty well. I actually got some good feedback on our most recent episode, surprisingly.
Really?
Like I got a few texts about it. One of them is sadly a Packers fan, so I mean I guess that cancels out the positivity, right? Now, hey Norm.
Hi Norm.
But I got some good comments on that, surprisingly. Like a lot of the same critiques of like, yeah, it's a good gateway record kind of thing. But this record is much shorter. Almost a third the length of that one.
Yeah.
Legitimately.
It ain't no damn gateway record.
No. You got to already be in the thick of it for this one.
This would probably turn a lot of people out. Like, I'm good, actually.
Absolutely.
We're just sick enough to really lean into this.
My friend Will refers to this as the titty record. And it's like, all right, like I get it. Like 100%. I remember opening up that Revolver magazine years ago, and it had the advertisement for the record. I think they were promoting probably at that point, like they used to put all these adverts with all their most recently released records on it, and it was like the top corner. I was like, all right, that's creepy enough that I got to check it out.
Yeah.
But other than that, like this week's been really good. Busy. It's been hot down here.
Yeah.
But not too bad. Not too bad.
How are you, Swindle?
I'm doing great. Like I mentioned off camera, I've had therapy and went to the gym on the same day, trying to work out all that anxiety and depression. And I had the day off today too.
So you also coupled that with this to like,
yeah.
Yeah. That's
Ease
smart.
right into it.
I guess kind of get into it. Today we're talking about Pig Destroyer's Teriffyer from the year 2004.
That's it.
Paulson, did you have any experience with Pig Destroyer before meeting me? Did you know anything?
This record came out when I was like in the 4th grade.
Amazing.
I was just a simple boy navigating my way through the world until I met you, as has often been discussed on this show. At one point, I remember I was working at they don't exist anymore, the Sprint store in Bowling Green, and I would do like, I'd have my coffee, and there was like a phase where I would have a cup of coffee and listen to like a grind record like every day for a while. And I listened to Prowler in the Yard first, and then got into this record. I'm assuming we're talking about this because this definitely feels like a different shift in another direction. Maybe we'll get into that. But short answer, no. You're the reason that we're here today talking about this, for me at least.
Dylan, what about you? Any experience with Pig Destroyer?
Yeah, absolutely. As I said, the Revolver adverts were a big deal. Decibel Magazine came a little bit later. But with Teriffyer, it was Generation 2 of Headbangers Ball, hosted by Jamie Josta. The video for, what was it? Gravedancer was a big deal. And it was that scream at the beginning of it. It's terrifying. It was like equal parts Converge, the vocal layering stuff on there. The kind of like straight rhythm the entire time on that track. That track is weirdly a slightly more accessible song on the record, even though it's still blisteringly heavy. The down-tuned 7-string BC Rich bitch that Scott Hull was playing. Sorry, it's not a bitch. It's a beast. It's the real dumb one. The one of the guys from Deicide would play, right, with all the angles and the sharp points and everything. Hopefully, we find a photo and post and we can put it on there. But I saw that and was like, all right, this is really fucking intense. But I couldn't find the record. I couldn't find the record anywhere at all. Like, obviously 2004, 2005. So like purchasing stuff online was still really in its infancy. I don't think I actually picked up a Pig Destroyer record until Phantom Lamb, till it was just easier to come by. Because I went looking for a Pig Destroyer record and was like scrolling through the P's at the Hastings Music, and there was another band that kind of has ties to this band in there, and I went, wow, that's a terrible band name, and I'm not buying this. But yes, Pig Destroyer. I was terrified from the get-go.
It's funny that you brought up Converge, because I was just before we started recording, I was just thinking about how wild it was that, like, as we'll talk about, like, Scott was going to college in Boston in like 94. So kind of like early formation Converge is happening at like the same time. Scott is starting like A and B, and like they go on to do a split record, and like Kurt is recording and Scott is recording. So like there are lots of kind of like similarities tying those two bands together. I got into Pig Destroyer at Phantom Limb also. I think basically like the year it came out or something, maybe our friend Wyatt had Phantom Limb, and he was just listen to this CD, and I was still early in my kind of like extreme music listening infancy, so I'm surprised that it took, but it did. So that's kind of like my favorite Pig Destroyer record, but I think that is very rare. I think most people cling to Teriffyer maybe as like the one that is like best upheld.
I agree with you. I know you and I don't have like a lot of the same mutual like favorite albums from certain bands and whatnot. Like, I agree. I think Phantom Limb is my favorite. Had a lot more groove to it, and that's kind of starting with what we're talking about today. But like the artwork, the groove on those tracks, like the artwork was a Baisley art piece, right? And like that same year, there was so much of his stuff.
It's so funny to see where John, or just like Bareness in general, kind of finds its way into some of the connections. Maybe, it's the artwork, but it's just like,
right,
they're everywhere.
So that year, you had 3 big releases with his artwork. You had Phantom Limb, you had the Blue record, and you had Darkest Hours, Deliver Us, all his artwork. And like, I know I'm glossing over a lot of records he did, but that artwork was such a great fix. The album matched it. It was their first record with Blake doing keyboards and sound effects and everything, added another texture to the band. And then I went backwards. And I'm sure you did the same thing. It's like, all right, this is good, so let's see what else is out there. And then you hear this record, you hear Prowler in the Yard, which is like a fucking snuff film. That whole last track with the whole like story at the end of it is, man.
I mean,
terrifying.
Even just the computer generated shit in the beginning is like enough. I remember when I heard that for the first time, I was like, this is like, I'm like in my work clothes, and I'm like, this is fucking weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, what a fucking discography, and I'm excited. I think this is like definitely a good place to start because the other stuff is definitely unhinged, but I think this is kind of maybe even in the same way that we talked about Agoraphobic Nosebleed with like Agorapocalypse. I think that's like, I don't want to say this is where the band gets serious, but I think you start to see like an, just kind of like an uphill trajectory. There's maybe like more interesting things happening on songwriting wise, because you could go a million miles a minute all day long. Like they're very capable of that, but I feel like there's maybe more experimentation going on with this record, and then even the really long form track that gets added in the deluxe version or whatever the fuck. But
so we'll start with Scott Hull, who is in a graduate school in Boston College in like 1994, 1995. He is in school, and I guess he was already playing guitar, but he just like becomes obsessed with grind music, and he like doesn't know any drummers, but for some reason he has a drum machine. So I would like to know like why in the fuck he had, like, if he wasn't already making like digi-grunt, like how did he get the drum? What were his intentions when he got this drum machine?
Right. And as we'll come to find too, like the drum machine is kind of the center of like a lot of his songwriting, and everybody from like Dave Whitty gives him praise of like, this guy is like not traditionally a drummer, obviously, but the way he is able to kind of program and arrange drums just from sitting at a computer. And obviously this was like the era of the drum machine. Later on he will have like the drum kit from Hell and the Tune Track, which is just, it's a perfect like kind of demoing kind of asset that is at his disposal. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know he's from Virginia. He ends up going to Boston College, and then I don't know if I don't know anything about his history pre that. Like, I don't know,
was Scott Hull like working on a fucking rap? He was doing 808 beats.
God, it's the Dave Witt quote or Whitty quote is my favorite. Of like, oh yeah, model it after you, and he's like, you're fucking insane. It's just like, you're fucking insane. Just to know that the way he writes, the way he programs his drums, that it's hard to tell if it's a real person or not because of how he does it. Even though like you listen to some of the stuff on the Agorapocalypse record, and it's like there's some wild drum shit on there. It's like there's nobody on this planet that could play that shit. Right. And then they find somebody.
Dude, you get like to like Arc though, and
yeah.
I mean, it's it's a sludge track, and it's like even that some of that stuff is just like written so fucking well. Like, I don't know, I love it.
One thing that I thought was funny about that quote is that like Dave says Scott's like the master of making it sound like a real drummer, and the thing that's funny to me about that is the early Agoraphobic Nosebleed shit. Like, it just sounds awful.
It's a typewriter.
No way. Yeah, it sounds like the oldest drum machine in the history of the world.
Biz is in the corner programming drums for Scott. An old fucking ADAT.
Before he like starts taking Agoraphobic like pretty seriously, he joins a band, AC.
Boy, he did.
And then he quits, and then he rejoins. A thing to note about that time in AC is that during the time they did a split with Enemy Soil, which would be how he comes to meet JR from Pig Destroyer, because Enemy Soil records with Scott Hull also, so they would meet each other then. And Scott also meets Jay Randall, who would eventually become a vocalist for Agoraphobic Nosebleed. Another thing to note about this time in AC is I feel like this is a very rare thing for musicians to get the taste of being a full-time musician and say, no, thank you. I don't want any part of this.
somehow AC got taken on tour with the biggest metal band of the 90s. Somehow.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Bright Eyes, right? You see that, you're like, fuck, I could do this thing. And then the minute you stop that tour or tours, it's like, you're going to play to 10 people. There's going to be fights every fucking night because people hate this dude for a valid reason.
Yeah.
Insert quote from Ethan from Primitive Man. And you're like, you know what? I think working a day job and doing this because I want to do it is going to be so much easier. And what a fucking day job does this guy? And as far as I know, he still has the same day job. And even back then, it was just always viewed as this hush hush thing of like, we don't really know exactly what he does, but it's essentially a government computer specialist. And even back in like the early interview days, even for the promos for like Phantom Limb, it's like, yeah, he really can't go into too many specifics, but he's essentially doing programming for a huge government corporation of some sort.
Yeah, like a defense contractor or something. I mean, that's essentially what brings him back to Virginia. But yeah, I mean, we've seen so many times where, and even in the current state of things, like you have to have like a working, you have to have a day job, right?
Yep.
And a lot of bands that we know and love have been able to do that. I mean, obviously Neurosis we've talked about. I believe there's some fucking teachers in that band.
Steve.
Yeah. So it's possible. It's better. I mean, even, Todd from Nails, I remember him like, I have a day job. I remember some old interviews of him. Like, it's just not going to be this thing. Like, I can't feasibly do this all the time.
I just read a great interview with the guys from Cryptopsy, and Matt, the vocalist, has been essentially a child educator since he's been in the band. He's worked at the same place, and it's like, okay, like, what pays the bills, but you get to have fucking fun doing this thing you really love, right? You get to go out and make fucking animal noises for, a pseudo living of sorts.
I did really like the Scott quote about that, essentially saying something like, if you have a real job and you're just doing this for like fun or because you want to, you're like more likely to make the music that you want to make. Because if you're depending on music to pay for your bills, then you're going to want to do what's going to like draw the most people or get the most people to buy your records. And it's going to like kind of corrupt the vision of what you're trying to do. But if you're not depending on making art as your livelihood, then you're just going to like make the craziest shit that you could want to possibly make. So I think that's a really fucking cool.
Damn, they did it.
Yeah. Yeah. But before we get too far off topic, it is wild to think that Agoraphobic started first. Because I would arguably say Scott is probably most known for the Pig Destroyer output. I mean, it's universally known, like he's huge umbrella, right? But I didn't hear about Agoraphobic until Agorapocalypse came out.
Yeah.
And that was the same year Phantom Limb came out. I think 2007, right?
Something like that.
And they're both relapse bands. So
yeah. And it's like you look at how long Agoraphobic has been around in comparison to Pig Destroyer, because Pig Destroyer was almost calculated. Like all the right pieces had to be there. And we've learned that, as you said earlier, like, he meets JR, a really young, impressionable JR.
I do want to touch on that too. Like Enemy Soil, they're from Virginia. They go to record in Bernard Studios, where Andrew Cokes from Japanese Torture Comedy Hour, which I believe we did touch on in our Agoraphobic Nosebleed episode. He works. Scott Hull was in that band as well. So they record, and some of the connections with Enemy Soil are fucking crazy. Virginia band formed in 1991 by Richard Johnson, who would be a member of Agoraphobic Nosebleed. And then you have TL Smoot, who is the former Page 99 bassist, Jeff Kane, City Caterpillar, King Fowley of Deceased, and then Brian Harvey, who would eventually be the drummer of Pig Destroyer, all in this fucking band together.
Scott drops out of college, starts his job, moves to Virginia, Alexandria or something.
I think that's right, because he's originally from that area too. Mm-hmm. So it's like, I'll just go home.
And I'm sure he had to be close to DC.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
considering the nature of his job. So he and JR have this connection. I think Enemy Soil is done at this point. But Scott and JR have like a like shared interest and love of really fast music. So they start a band called Treblinka. This band only plays one fucking show. Somehow there's a video of this one show this band plays on YouTube. They played with Asuk or whatever. And then they break up because like vaguely things just weren't good internally in this band.
I couldn't believe you found that video.
Dude,
when you sent it, I was like, that's a lie. Like,
No way.
I was just kind of surfing through. I was like, I wonder if there's something out there. And I just fucking Googled it. I did the old man shit. And I just saw that video pop up and I go, I've seen this. And I went, no, it's not. This isn't a Pig Destroyer video. I was like, oh, might as well. Let's pop it in. And of course, as soon as I sent it in there, I was like, I know what he's going to say. I know what he's like, there's no way. Like, this is it.
I was surprised that because you can find the first Pig Destroyer show.
Yes, absolutely.
But it's insane that it's out there. But to have the recorded video of the only show you ever played with this band.
The only show.
And yeah, I mean, it's made up essentially of like all of the Enemy Soil people practically. And yeah, you just
somebody from Strike Anywhere was in the band.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
One show you break up, but they still want to like play together. And they do.
Yeah. So the one show happens, the band breaks up, but JR and Scott decide they still want to be in a band together. So the two of them, I guess, recruit John Evans, and they start Pig Destroyer, and they kind of, I think the story is they're like in line for a roller coaster, and they're just talking like, what's the craziest name for like a punk band that we could possibly make that like doesn't have the word like testicles or something in it, and they come to the line of like Cop Killer or like Cop Destroyer, and then they decide on the name Pig Destroyer, and it stuck.
One of the all-time great names, man. I mean, solid. It's great.
It's subtle enough that you don't really know what it means until you really dig into it a little bit, or you're in the know, because it's like, oh, okay, this could go many ways, right?
They released a demo, 1997, self-titled, 9 tracks, 7.5 minutes.
It's a full length for
It
Swindle.
seems like I heard that maybe they went with like fake names just so people wouldn't know who was like actually recording it, like people in their scene. Because Scott Hull's credited as Marvin Gardens. John Evans is as Lumpy with a question mark.
Yes.
Lumpy.
Yes.
And then J.R. Hayes is September 17th, which I think Dylan or Swindle.
Definitely wasn't me.
Yeah, I was like, I didn't even think. Did you just know off the top of your head, or what?
No, God, no. I don't know that it is the reason he went with September 17th, but the only thing that I found, like I Googled September 17 and like went to the Wikipedia page where it's just like a list of things that happened in all these years, and the only thing that like stuck out to me is it's like the end of the Constitutional Convention happened in September 1787, and that's like how the Constitution of America was signed and became the land of the law. Seems kind of weird, kind of lofty, but that's the only thing that I could really like. I don't know.
JR is Huey Freeman. Like, fuck. I will say, like, we obviously in our notes here, we've got all the links to the different things the band's done. And I went through it and I was like, fuck it, we're going to check everything out that I haven't heard. And I put on the demo, and the first comment on the demo is hilarious. It's like, yeah, this is back when they were still a grind band and they didn't sell out. And like, the rest of the comment was something like, I want grind to bash my fucking brains in. I don't want to groove. I'm like, all right, I mean, I get that, but
that's hilarious.
They're still at the guts and the outline. Like their frame is still a grind band. It's a little bit more just a varied extreme version of that.
I love that somebody like, I only like the Pig Destroyer
like the
demo.
demo?
They really sold out after the demo.
Well, when Brian joined, everything went downhill.
Oh my god.
He ruined the band. Henry Rollins joined, he ruined Black Flag.
Fuck.
But yeah, so I mean, essentially John, the drummer, John Evans, he leaves to go to school.
They fabricated a fight.
I found this in a Washington City paper from 2001. Yeah, they they fabricated a breakup, and then they got back together with Brian Harvey, who was in Enemy Soil as well. So essentially, with Brian, you have JR, you have Scott. This is essentially like the lineup for the next handful of releases, the next handful of years. They didn't have a bass player, and I think there was a conscious effort to structure the band in that way, because obviously AC was like that. The classic kind of like grind thing with vocalist, guitar, drums, Discordant Axis also like that as well. But then also there's the element of, we just didn't want to spend the time to teach somebody the parts. We're just not going to have like a second guitar or like a bassist. It's just whatever. They would eventually do that obviously later on, but why waste the time, I guess.
If you're not even taking the time to play a lot of these songs as a full band, even once, then you're not going to want to spend time teaching extra people the songs.
We didn't want to
Right.
teach anybody the stuff. Like, I get it. I said this off camera, but this is one of the few bands I gave kind of like carte blanche of like, all right, it's fine. You don't.
I mean, they make up for it. I mean, they have
those
like the
fucking
big,
shit is low tuned.
God, and I even remember, I don't know if it's this release or on a future. I mean, they pitch. I don't know if it's like Phantom. They pitch a guitar layer down too to kind of like make up for it. So it's like there's plenty of low end here. They are able to do it. I don't know.
So then they released their first full length, Explosions in Ward 6, 1998. It is a very different Pig Destroyer at this point than what we are talking about and what I would know as Pig Destroyer. JR's like lyrics are very political, which is also kind of why they went with the Pig Destroyer name, because they had different like leanings then than they do maybe now, or like they wrote about different stuff.
Yeah, I remember he was kind of mentions like coming out of like Enemy Soil, and this time he was like a straight edge like hardcore kid. So maybe he was still kind of like very in that mindset, which, on the upcoming releases, there's like maybe more personal stuff that he's delving into, whereas this is like kind of your classic kind of hardcore mind frame. But I do love that, they kind of mentioned this. We don't really give this album a whole lot of love, Scott Hull says in like a Decibel magazine interview, or they basically kind of see this more as it is an album, but they see it more as like a demo. And then the following record is maybe more of their proper kind of full length release, I think.
They were also saying that this record was kind of more of their like hardcore leaning, like the musically. They said like at this point it like wasn't like cool or acceptable to put metal in your like hardcore, so they just kind of wrote a hardcore record, and their more metal leaning records would be all the subsequent ones after. It's wild to think of Pig Destroyer not sounding metal. I can't even like fucking imagine that.
It's you bring up like keeping the metal out of the hardcore thing during this period of time, and we've had many episodes where we've alluded to that and talked about that during this time frame. There's a fucking Melvins cover on this first record, which are like, there's so much Melvins in this band. Like if you really get down to it and you listen to some of it, especially on this record, like it's there, it's fucking there. And just to hear like this is the straight up kind of hardcore record. I put this on a couple nights ago, and like the cover is I think it's a close up of a child on there, and it is. I mean, I would say it's definitely more in a hardcore leaning or kind of just straightforward grind on this one for sure. Like it's very straightforward. There's not a lot of layering on it. It's just dry cut. There it is. It does. I see how the band views it as a demo because it's so just dry, right? There's not a lot of experimentation on it. But the band went on to release like tons of shit and did splits and singles and you fucking name it, and 7 inches and all sorts of shit. But I'll let you guys get into that because some of these are really surprising. Also, a band being named Knob is just fucking great with how it's spelled with a G.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about the split with Orchid before in that episode. Yeah, they did
Orchid's
a split.
First show was with Pig Destroyer.
That's crazy. So, I mean, all of these other like, Screamo connections that we keep mentioning, like Page 99 and all that. Yeah, Knob. There's a great cover of a Stooges track on there, Down on the
bonkers.
Street. There's a 7-inch like picture disc that they did on Reptilian Records, which features like all of the Knob songs, the split from that. The ISIS split from 04, which is their first technical release, the Relapse. That features just more covers. ISIS doing a Godflesh cover of Street Cleaner, and then Pig Destroyer doing 2 Carcass covers as well.
Yeah,
fucking awesome.
Those are good covers too. I would argue those even sound better. Specifically, the Genital Grinder and Regurgitation of Giblets, which is on the first Carcass record, I believe, sounds a lot better than that original Carcass record.
It's cool. And then really my favorite thing about this band, or I should say, one thing I really like about this band too, is that you'll get all the comps. So they would do all of these splits, and it's like you don't have to like try to break your neck looking for them. They're just going to put them out on a comp. So a lot of these songs ended up on 38 Counts of Battery, which was a compilation in 2000.
Along with the explosions in Ward 6, all of those songs ended up being on 38 Counts of Battery.
Relapse has released everything this band has done. It seems like they've like Scott and JR are like, hey, we've got all this stuff. Can we just put it out? Like, sure. Relapse is one of the better labels for that type of shit. It's really cool, especially if you're like a completist. Like I think Austin and I are with a lot of bands too. Like, there's an option to pick up that record in a comp form or on exclusive color print or whatever it may be. It's there. You can get all of it.
I mean, we'll talk about it in a second. I mean, they literally remastered one of the comps like last year. So it's pretty cool. But their first proper release for Relapse would be Prowler in the Yard, their sophomore album, July 24th of 2001. And I did love a quote. I think I found it on that same paper, Washington City paper from 01. They said, we basically took all the advance money that we got from Relapse and built a studio because I've got experience. I've been recording bands for a lot of years, Scott Hull. And so, I mean, all these up until I think Phantom Limb, they were recording in like, it says Brian's basement or Brian's house. So I'm assuming that's Brian Harvey's just place in Sterling, Virginia. So I'm like, I think it's just a small town outside of like Washington, DC, but they're doing everything pretty much on their own. They're recording it. They're, Scott's just behind the board taking care of it all.
I mean, why not save the money? Or as Scott just said, spend it on something that's going to give back in dividends for so many years that you can save the whatever the advance was, be it $3,000, $5,000, $6,000. It probably at this point in time, if it's a grind project, what are we talking about? It's probably $1,500. It save the money, build the studio, like do all that stuff, and you got it. He's got the experience. It's the record sound. I think the version that's out now is like a remaster. Maybe I think that's the one that you can hear most. I don't know what the original one sounds like. So I'm sure it sounded good for the time too. And like, it's fucking horrifying. It is a terrifying record.
Speaking of horrifying, one of the striking things about Prowler and other Pig Destroyer records is the cover. Scott Hull went to like a tattoo convention and met Paul Booth, who was a tattoo artist that he'd read about. And he got to talk to Paul, and they talked about art, and he really liked what Paul was saying about like his process and what he thought about art. So Scott got Paul to do the art, and it features Bobby Steele.
Fucking crazy.
He's the model of. I never knew that.
When
you look at the cover and it's just the dude from like all these like really classic Misfits releases is the on the
When
cover
you-
of this art.
Sent that in the chat. I saw that name and went, there's no fucking, like immediate. There's nobody else I know by that name. And I went, there's no fucking way.
There's a great video where they're talking about it. I think Swindle must have linked it or something, but it's like Paul Booth and it's like edited with Scott, and they're kind of talking about how the origins of this happened. And it's like Paul was just a friend of Bobby's, and
That's
like
crazy.
that's how it happened.
And if you're finding somebody to do really dark and deviant looking artwork of anybody, like especially tattoo guys, like Paul was the guy and is the guy. Paul has tattooed a list of legendary kind of musicians, primarily metal musicians. He's done, I think he's done all of Kerry King's work at this point. Like he's done stuff for Anselmo, he's done stuff on Corey Taylor, and the list goes on and on. Those are just like the big hitters, but like I'm sure like Scott's got some art from Paul at this point in time.
He gets tattooed in that video. Like he gets another.
Yeah. Like
it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Paul is the guy.
He also worked with Deicides, 6 Feet Under, Necrophagia, Harp, Sepultura, some other stuff as well. I found it in that same paper article where it was pre the album. They had already kind of given him some like references of what they wanted. Actually, I did find it kind of funny that Scott had like got some of his ideas from the Pink character in the wall. Like that was kind of like a touchstone of what he was kind of giving him. But even JR was like, I'm nervous because a lot of his work is Cro-Magnon. I don't know what that means.
Cro-Magnon.
Caveman.
Yeah.
It's a period of time.
Gotcha. I'm glad you're here.
History lessons. Yeah.
But he's like, I just hope our cover doesn't show up and it's just some gratuitous orgy of violence, which, you know, sorry, buddy. But it's a classic cover. It's like, yeah, it draws you in instantly.
That's as close to like, and Swindle will know exactly what I'm talking about. That's as close to like a porno grind cover.
Yeah.
Like that you could get without it being that. Like it's real on the nose, but I think the color scheme just makes it just kind of like fuzzed out enough that you really can't tell what's going on. But there's some there's a dismemberment going on in the front of that fucking record. And that guy has found some really good bathtub crank.
Another thing, speaking of JR and orgy of violence, another thing that's important to note about this record is it's kind of the first Pig Destroyer record where like JR changes the tone of the lyrics he writes. It, like we said, it becomes like more personal. I think in some interviews, he had said that like he experienced a breakup around this point. So he was writing kind of like darker, more personal lyrics. And boy, does he continue in that trajectory.
He does mention too, I think it's important to note Scott again, because I found another interview where he's like, he showed me a lot of, I wasn't much of a reader. I was doing like comic books and stuff, but he mentions like Bukowski and Burroughs and Sam Shepard, and that was all from Scott. And those are some, you know, I have not read them, but I've heard how dark they can be. I think, you know, obviously Kurt Cobain like did some stuff with fucking that we talked about before with Burroughs, but and then also Dax Riggs from Acid Bath.
That was
being,
cool.
like, a pretty huge influence as well, which I think you can definitely make.
Yeah, it's
some
there.
Of the imagery connection on that as well.
What I found was really interesting was that his approach to lyricism just gets that's kind of what I've always read for this band, even when I was a younger kid and reading some of the articles I saw, was that he kind of had this very destructive poetry kind of thing going on with a lot of the lyrics. Like it's very vague, right? You don't know what it could be about, but you kind of have the idea in mind. You know, me, I've got to sneak in a Springsteen kind of connection on every fucking episode we do. He fucking mentions them, and I'm like, all right, you know, there's a Nebraska thing going on. I could see that, like all the different allusions and of what's going on. You know, I don't think JR is writing Born in the USA.
JR is going to be in the movie, right? The upcoming
you know,
biopic.
I think he's going to be like an engineer along with Mark Maron.
Yeah, right. Well, another point, just to kind of piggyback off of that, Cat Katz, who is on this record.
Yes.
They have appeared on several releases, obviously an ex-member of Agoraphobic Nosebleed, mentions that JR was like a huge influence on the way they write lyrics and the way they kind of vocally perform. But just the fact that I think they mentioned like just how JR makes his lyrics like as tight as possible. And he even mentions in a quote, like, if there's a line that doesn't need to be there, it's gonna go. Like, so just minimalism.
The thing that I love about that quote was the sentence before the one you said, where he says lyrics are all about how they look. Like he can just look at the lyrics and be like, that's right. That's what it's supposed to look like.
Seeing that is basically, I interpret it as he's already got an idea of how the song kind of flows and what it's going to feel like. And he's like, all right, those syllables, all of that fits. And then like a line after, he's like, that's not, let's get it out of here. I don't even have the attempt to do it. I know it's not going to fit. And it's like, that's kind of this weird, it's confidence, right? Like it's confidence that is very strange to have, especially when you're talking about some of the fucked up things he's talking about. And it's like, man, if you've got that power to do that, like by all means, man, fucking go for it. And to add to Austin's statement about Cat, like JR made a really good statement about them as well. And like kind of doted on them very well, of like, does a great job. They do a great job. They've done a great job. I'm going to write a part for you. I'm going to write a song for you, like so on and so forth. So like there's a really good connection between those two as well, at least during this period of time.
Yeah. So after that, there's a couple other things. There's a split with Benum that was released through Robotic Empire, who I've definitely known just because of their work with Thou. They also do a compilation, Painter of Dead Girls, which I mentioned earlier, just received the kind of reissue remaster treatment through Relapse, which it features that split. It features the split with Knob again. And then there was like another track that was recorded at track 17. I don't have it in front of me, but I also get the live performance at CBGB's, which he like the mic fucks up or something like that, or something happens in it.
He doesn't know what happened to it.
Yeah.
He's
like 4 places.
He's like, it just disintegrated.
But he just keeps singing.
That video is as legendary as the mall performance of Dillinger Escape Plan, where Greg is walking on those kids' fucking heads. That is as legendary of a performance as that, because it's like, this isn't going to happen. Nothing like this can ever happen. And just walks. Also seeing a very young Pig Destroyer in CBGB's legendary venue, kind of a legendary shithole of like, mic falls apart. I can't just stand here with my pud in my hand. Like I got to do something. Blows. And I knew it as soon as I heard it and saw the video for the first time. I'm like, he's hurting like that. There's no way they finished the set. Done. Just boop. And he finished the set.
It's wild how well you can hear him over Scott Hull's 1,000-watt bass amp.
Dude, that hurts so bad.
It is crazy to think, because like they even talk about that. I think he mentions like this VH 140C Ampex solid state head, but I think he was known to use like some bass amps just because of like, I want to be as loud as anybody else. Again, the musician dickhead thing of like, I need to be louder than everybody else.
I didn't know he used that Ampeg VH4. That thing is a legendary amplifier. It's on a lot of death metal records. Like if you heard something recorded through Morris Sound Studios, that amp was probably on it. Luc Lemay from Gore Guts, Tomb of the Mutilated, Cannibal Corpse, Dying Fetus, all those bands, like they've all used that amp. But to know that he also blended that with, I saw some videos, I think it's like an old Gallion Kruger bass amp. And it's just the fact that he dimes it. It's like, it's just me.
He's an interesting gear guy, because I think even just the guitar wise, I noticed he had maybe started with like just a standard Gibson SG and then kind of moves like further in with like some of the 7-string stuff, because they're like in B and you can still be in like E standard at that point. But I mean, he had some 8 strings at certain points. Like he's been an Ibanez guy, he's been a Jackson guy, he's been all over the place.
Different eras. ESP's been in there a few times with them. I think now he's playing like some sort of custom shop. It looks like a BC Rich Stealth in a 7-string. But his, gear wise, it almost feels like I just need whatever is going to make me loud, whatever is going to sound huge, give it to me, kind of thing. I mean, I mentioned the BC Riches earlier. Like, I think he had a endorsement deal with BC Rich for a little while, because there's a couple eras where he's playing these, you see the headstock, you see like the kind of widow headstock for a while. And it's like, fuck, if you're writing stuff like that, even with those things, like, just keep doing what you're doing.
So that brings us to the album we are here for. That brings us to 2004 and Teriffyer. This is their third record, and going into their third record, they seem like they feel some pressure to still sound like Pig Destroyer, but not write the same record that they've written 3 times and or 2 other times, and still make a record that like stands out. And I mean, I think they fucking accomplished that. But they write music in a fucking weird way. I just completely have never encountered this and do not understand. They would just, for all this time leading up to this record and including this record, they would just like write a song and then immediately record it and not rehearse it. And like they said, we just want to rehearse it just enough to be able to record it, and like not a bit more.
I think that's very, for all of the creative people, we've kind of touched on this, like, kind of style of writing and recording where, I didn't take it as like, don't sit with something for too long, as literally write it and then just, all right, we got to do something with it. Don't even think about it. This is like a very extreme version of that for sure. But
Right.
I do find it very, endearing, and also just kind of pisses me off that, like, one, all right, we're going to record this and it's just going to be very organic sounding, but also the stuff that they're coming up with in like this kind of, brief kind of moment of inspiration is some of the craziest, coolest shit that you could ever come up with. It's like, we didn't even spend that much time on this shit. It's like, oh, that's just like one of the coolest riffs I've ever heard. This is like one of the best extreme metal records of all time. But I guess I go fuck myself.
There's so many aspects to that too that works for this band, right? There's 2 members. There's 2 band members essentially. I don't want to like disclude JR, but it's like drum and guitars. Hey, I got a riff. All right, I'm going to do this thing. All right, I can kind of play off that. Boom. All right, on to the next one. Boom, boom, boom. But there's also an avenue of they don't play live a lot at this period of time. Tours are very short, probably 10 days max at most, even if that. And so the songs that they learn, they're like, we can learn these to the best of our ability. Let's just knock those out. There's a great Alex Webster quote from a handful of years ago where they talk about writing records. He goes, it's a blending for us. We know there are songs that we will play live 100%. We know there are songs that are just cool to us that we want to put on there. And then there are songs that are fucking weird and we only want on the record and we don't want to play live. So I think in the world that all 3 of us come from, where it's like, write what you can, play everything that you write kind of thing, that the idea of that you would exclude stuff to ever play live or never play stuff live it's kind of hard to fathom. And I think having that blind confidence to go, it's just going to go on the record. Like, fuck it. And JR's kind of quote about filler, he's like, sometimes you just have to write something to fill out time. And it's like, we like filler and we're going to put it on there. It's like,
hey, man,
fuck. All right. And
think back to that Coalesce record.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it works for them because even the difference between Teriffyer and like Phantom Limb, Terriffyer's 21 songs and Phantom Limb's like 11 or 12. I may be kind of off there. It's like the band has started to move a little bit and more so into like song structure, I guess. And even then, like the songs aren't like boring by any means. There's exciting moments in every single one of them. And there's also points in time where you're like, this still sounds like a grind band. Like I can't tell what the fuck's going on for like 2-second burst or 5-second burst. And then there's like this huge power groove that comes in. But the writing process of all that, of having this idea that everybody's on the same page of what we're doing, but we're getting it just tight enough that we can record it, makes it even more fun to listen to this record because you can hear it where, fuck, I forgot what we're doing. You can still kind of hear it here and there. It's like, all right, this is cool.
But in the same, on the other side of the coin of that, I mean, think of like all of the cool communication that's happening between the guitar and the drums on this record, which it makes it so crazy to me that they didn't really spend a lot of time on it. Cause you would think they really there's just some intricate stuff happening between these two like instruments that I wouldn't have believed in a million years that they just like, I don't know, fucking put it out there. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
Just record it. It's done. Like, wow.
I love the intention that they have of this way of writing, because they specifically they could have written music together and spent hours practicing it, but they wanted it specifically to sound like wild, off the rails. Like, yeah, the tires are about to fall off the car. What was I sent you all the quote from the Imperial Triumphant interview. It's like the guy was like, it sounds like it's about to fall apart, but trust us, we know that that it is. Like, that was a good quote. I
mean, it's Indiana Jones in the minecart with Short Round. Like, just
okay. Donkey Kong Country. It's that level with But so yeah, they record this in the same space that they've been working, Brian's basement or house or whatever the fuck. You do have some guest appearances. Richard Grindfather Johnson, who we mentioned earlier, being ex-Enemy Soil, future Agoraphobic Nosebleed member. You also have Catherine Katz on Lost Cause, and they would obviously make appearances on several Pig Destroyer releases after that. And then you also have Matthew Mills on guitar solo for Towering Flesh, who I didn't really find too much on this guy. He's like basically kind of this neoclassical guitar player from the Maryland area. I think he's done like a bunch of solo releases, but I mean, there's like stuff in here, like literally there's a record called Neoclassical Spirit or Neoclassical Rock Guitar, Forgotten Realm, those kinds of things. But so I did think that solo was Scott at first, but I guess it's Matthew Mills as well. So
I don't want to spend too much time, but like Cat being on the record is like, I think we've discussed it, instantly recognizable.
Yeah,
100%. Like even layered in how they are, like instantly.
Yeah. JR said they one-taked it too. One-take Cats. There's not much in the way of production on this album. It's Scott just did pretty much everything. The band was very DIY for this record. But one thing that is important to note for this record is the album artwork. The album artwork created by Chris Taylor, who mainstay in the Richmond, Virginia music scene. He was a member, one of the brothers from Page 99, also one of the brothers in Pygmy Lush. JR, I guess, had been friends with Chris for even before Page 99, before Pig Destroyer started. Longtime friends. Chris is also an artist, and JR said that Chris has like a way of working with a copy machine that's like, it looks like he's using it like a musical instrument or something. Like he would copy an image and then mess with like the saturation and darken it, and then use like whiteout and then put another image on top of it. And I guess one night at like a Kinko's or something, they had a porno mag, and they copy this picture and they darken it just so enough that the person's face is gone. And they decided that like that's going to be the album cover. And I think JR said like Chris's kind of process for creating was like, you just kind of give him a vague direction of what you want and then like let him go and he'll give you something great.
Yeah. I mean, this is a iconic album artwork as much as like Prowler in the Yard is, but like this is in the same vein too. This is not one that you want to just like keep like laying around for sure.
Yeah.
Like it's not just something I'm gonna have like out on the turntable.
What's the first? Well, I forget what it is, but the record you used to keep in the fucking front of
the
your
same
stack
thing.
of records.
Yeah. Oh, slip it in. Black Flag, slip it in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, I probably should put that back. Yeah.
We're gonna
This
like
would
when I
not
bought
have
the-
this would
Yeah.
this would not have flown.
It's like when I bought the Tomb of the Mutilated CD for the first time. I went, yeah, we're gonna put that one in the mix. We're gonna like stash it in there.
Dude, I mean, there's just so many albums where, I mean, especially growing up, I think I got, the first time I ran into that really was, I was at my local record store, shout out Kiss the Sky and Batavia. I had a regular used classic rock record, and underneath it, I was like gonna buy, like sneaking Death's Leprosy and also Slayer, Show No Mercy. But I was like, what's underneath
my
there?
God.
And he looked at it, he kind of just scoffed, he was like, whatever, man. And then just like,
I was thinking about this like this morning. I was looking at the cover as I was listening to the record, and I went, I am so happy that this album didn't be, and I'm not saying that because like I want the band to be a certain level, but I'm so happy that this album cover did not take off the way Jane Doe did, because forbid that the lawsuit happens from the young person or person that was in that image and they find out where that image came from. Like,
that's my
could you
birthmark right above my.
Could you imagine that story? It's like finding the Italian Stallion for the first time and him realizing like that's out. It's like,
what a specific thing that you've just said. Yeah, no, I'm definitely
it's a good
glad
thing
that I don't
Larry
see.
Flint's passed away.
I am glad. I'm sure they exist, but I have not seen too many Teriffyer shirts just lingering around at a show.
Tattoos, just
Yeah.
a big old set of
Man.
tattoos tattooed on your
you just
leg.
you just walk in and like walk into the next like underground show and there's a huge Terrifier back piece on a battle vest. It's like, that's
What do
To
you
the
know?
nose.
It should be a shirt with just it's the head. It's
It's above.
Yeah.
or just the gap in between.
Just yep. Anyway.
And also not as striking, but the back cover came from the same porn magazine as the front cover.
Beautiful.
But
Christ.
is there anything else? Is that kind of?
I think
Before next is we're going through track by track, but I told y'all in the group chat we're gonna play a game in this episode.
Oh,
What is your favorite song title on this record? I'll go first. I'm gonna say "Soft Assassin." think that's
damn
my
it.
favorite.
Yeah, because it's not what when I heard the lyric, it's not what I thought it would. Like, that's not the first thing that was in my head. Just a flaccid assassin.
Dylan, I think I know what yours is gonna be.
Crippled Horses is up there. That's such a good one. Crippled Horses is good. I think Restraining Order Blues has such a cool ring to it. Scarlet Hourglass is cool too.
Boy Constrictor, that's another great one. I think
yeah.
that's a good one too.
Yeah,
What album has Girl in a Slayer jacket on it?
that's the next one.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's on these are
Moon.
great titles. They're
Yeah,
great
so good.
titles. And you don't know what they're about by any means. And it's just like, but that's the interesting thing, right? Like that's walking in and going, I have to fucking hear whatever this is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or it's like finding some fucking buried treasure of a movie and you're like, I don't know what this is about. I'm putting it on.
All right, so now that we got the game out of the way, let's get into this record. It starts with an intro called Intro, and it's largely nothing. It's like kind of water trickling and footsteps. I don't know why. The water trickling just seems unsettling. It like sounds thicker than water. Like it's like could be blood or something trickling down.
Obviously, you can try to like paint the picture in your head. To me, it was like, am I in a sewer? Where am I? I'm in somewhere dark and eerie, and there's like people doing like there's like radio calls and like sort of static like that. My favorite part though is like you get the footsteps kind of running in, and it's getting closer and closer, and it almost kind of makes you want to like go like, what's that? And then you're just met with a fucking scream.
Yeah.
Oh, false sense of security.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The anxiety ridden intro of this record, the dripping water, as Swindle said, and the footsteps just building an intensity to that crescendo of a scream that is used in the Gravedancer video.
So that scream leads us into Pretty in Casts. Also, that scream is much louder than the record. Than the instruments that are after.
My first thought was, man, this would make fucking Alan Douches wince. It's just so loud. It's so incredibly loud.
A big takeaway for this record is fucking pinch harmonics.
Yeah.
Yep.
Scott loves a pinch harmonic, and I love him for that. Thank you, Scott.
And they're used in a way too that sometimes they're not always the most audible. In some of the songs, like you hear it, you're like, oh, did I fucking hear that? And what I found myself doing on a couple of the last listens I did for this record is, especially when I was taking my notes, was having to rewind it a lot because so much is going on in a minute, 50 seconds, whatever it is, that you're like, that's a second I missed. I got to go back. And it took, as opposed to a 32-minute runtime, it's closer to like 40 to get everything in. It's like, Christ, what I miss.
You're right. I mean, so many times it's at a blistering pace, and they might only do something for like a second or two, and you're like, oh, well, I have to go back and figure out, make note of that. But with that said, it's not like it's just, there's dictation. You can hear some of the things he's doing, obviously, with those bends and those harmonics. I mean, there's melody, there's groove, and it's just like, this guy can't sit still. It's going all over the place, but there's something there. There's something to digest with like the songwriting arrangements on this.
There might only be one guitarist in this band, but there's not only one guitar track. There are lots of guitar tracks. It is thick.
He's definitely layering, and I mean, and that's, we haven't mentioned the song title yet, but did we? Yeah, I've just been lost. Okay. And that's one thing I noticed immediately is once this track's in, you hear the low tuned layered guitars. And I love the fact that there's no bass guitar, right? But you've got these low tuned, sometimes it's a 6-string tuned down, sometimes it's a 7-string, and they're layered. So it adds that element of low end and push and bounce and everything that low end frequencies have. And he's also still able to have like these Slayer-esque riffs going on in this track and all over the record. Like there's so many crossover and thrash and like groove metal influences on this, which is what separates this from even Prowler in the Yard, right? Prowler in the Yard could even be considered like, that's the most intense grind that this band's done. Now let's add these other elements that take all these other influences we have. And you get it. Again, we've said this in a lot of albums we've talked about, where like the first record and the last record are really good implementations of, this is what you're going to get on the record, and the last track is, here's what may come next.
You mentioned there being multiple guitar layers, also vocally too. I mean, you are getting like different delivery as far as like what he's doing. He's able to hit those highs. He's able to do lows. There's some tracks where he's got maybe like, you mentioned Converge. I feel like there's even some of those early kind of Converge, like cleaner kind of like almost disoriented, it's very off-putting. But there's also the layers. You listen to it, it's either like doubled, or sometimes it's just two completely different takes, that whereas like this, there's something going on completely different over here at the same time that something else is happening in your right ear, which just adds to the overall like kind of really dark experience of listening to this record.
So then we got Boy Constrictor,
which I do love the fucking effect that happens. It's almost like it sucks in, like it sucks out all of the air and then spits it back out, like that reverse effect. And then just they waste no time getting into this fucking thing either.
That's an ass beater of a riff.
A lot of math going on at the beginning of this song.
Yep.
And one thing in the notes that we didn't touch on before, I said in our group chat though, is that like they were saying at this time, like the early part of Pig Destroyer, the early albums, they would intentionally move on from parts before like people would get used to them. But they in a lot of songs on this record, like will bring the riff back, and at the end of this song, they bring the mathy part from the beginning back. I mean, I know that's kind of like songwriting 101, obviously, but it's funny that they like were like, oh yeah, we would move on just to piss people off, kind of, but you're bringing it back. What do you mean?
Yeah, it's kind of like it's a little different than maybe like that Soylent Green record where you will have a part and they spend like a fraction of a second on it and you might not hear it again, which works for that record.
Yeah.
I love the experience
Right.
of that. But yeah, to make a point like, yeah, we didn't do that. It's like, no, you did. You're doing it.
Yeah, it's wild you brought up that Soylent Green record because these guys actually talked about like, yeah, we're not going to repeat any parts. And that band's like, I think we repeated a part somewhere.
Yeah.
In there. Like, the
Did we?
Soylent Green guys are like, I think we might have done it. Because that is similar vein, same label, but two completely different sounding like grind influenced albums, right?
It's
different.
this is different takes on like Swarm of Bees, just different kinds of swarms for sure.
Scott's got this just dense guitar sound, just a thick, meaty guitar sound, and like it's articulate. There's a lot of range in it. He can do a lot with it. It's not just this low-tuned kind of riff thing. But as much as we talk about his guitar playing and like Brian's no fucking like shrug, like his performance on, I mean, every fucking track, like it's the stamina like you got to have to do something like this fast, this quick, all the changes in a very short, tight space, while still being able to like add some groove in there and add like some like old school influences, right? Add a little bit of groove, add kind of a hook to some of these songs as well. And I think we can all mutually agree. It's like, we don't want a boring song. Like it's not that we don't like choruses. We just don't want them to be bad. We don't want them to be cheesy and spoon fed to us. But, when a big hook pops in, and even if it's just for a second, you're like, oh, fuck, that's perfect. Like if it's a riff, a drum pattern, anything.
Brian is also very creative. It's not, it's not grindcore 101 drumming.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like just blast and then you blast and then you blast and then you keep blasting. Like he is doing some very well thought out shit that, well, I guess maybe Scott came up with it and Brian just like is mirroring it, because a lot of the stuff was like programmed by Scott when he wrote it, but then Brian would like learn the part or whatever, I guess.
Yeah, but I mean, you have to, I'm sure, I don't know how, like, I mean, obviously he can like write drum parts, but you have to translate it and it has to work for what's going on. And I feel like he does have like a very unique sense of playing. And I mean, he definitely can blast, until the fucking cows come home. But like, I mean, you get like the opening of the next track, if we can just go into that, Scarlet Hourglass, some of these songs will just start with like a crazy fill and maybe like a cymbal hit or something like that. And then the song is like a great example of that. You get the fill and there's like a pick scrape and then you're just going for a million miles a minute.
I love that opening riff that's just like 3 notes and they're just like, let's repeat these 3 notes like 60 fucking times.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just short, annoying riff that we're going to do over and over and over.
This might be one of my favorite tracks on the record. I think JR and I have a thing in common on this track. That's his favorite Pig Destroyer track, which is crazy because there's a huge catalog just on this fucking record. It kind of, there's a couple tracks on here that do it, but this kind of has that cannibal groove. That riff has that cannibal kind of groove, that weird, it almost feels like 6 or 3, but it may not be, just how it's synced up. But there's also points on this track too that harkens back to those old kind of grinds periods where it's like, you can't really tell what the fuck's going on. It's just so fucking fast. Like there's not a ton of articulation in those spots. You just know it's fast and it's chords being progressed. And it's like back to the riff. Like, and that's cool, but like that shit racks my brain a lot because it's like, man, I can't comprehend that at this point. I don't know what the fuck's going on, but I do love this track a lot, a whole fucking lot, and I like how it transitions to the next track.
Before we go, one of my favorite parts of the song is the breakdown. Essentially, he slows it down, and at first, like when you first hear it, it's like, man, he's like bending it so hard it almost feels like the guitars are going out of fucking tune, and then it's just so fucking heavy. And then, yeah, you get the scream to end to bring us into Thumbsucker, which I think is one of my favorite tracks on the record as well.
I do want to say it has nothing to do with either song, but anytime I don't like a song from now on and someone asks me about it, I'm going to be like, those chords are progressing. Those chords sure are progressing.
There's something there.
I think one of my favorite like Scott Hull isms is this like fucking gallop. He's done it all over fucking Pig Destroyer.
Oh,
agoraphobic nosebleed.
Yes.
Like what the hung from a rising. I forget.
From the Rising Sun.
This is like another one of those fucking like elephant marching like kind of battle riffs.
Yep.
It's so crazy. It's so heavy.
You hit the nail on the head. It's an elephant marching riff, and that's that like kind of weird gallopy kind of feel, right? And it, as you said, it's all over this record, and it does add an element of groove without it just being a lame groove part, right? It's like, oh, fuck, I can get into this. Like there's I can breathe a little bit, but it's still fucking heavy as shit. It's moshable, right? It's a moshable section. You know, this is the riff that gets kids losing their fucking minds, or actually, if it's Pig Destroyer, it's a bunch of old schmucks like us. Like just losing their fucking minds. Like, what I really thought was cool about this song is there's keyboard in it, and it's layered in, and you can kind of hear it, and it's very eerie.
Yeah, I almost thought it was like a slow. Well, it's kind of towards the end of the song, right?
Yes.
It's like I almost thought it was like a slowed down moaning sample or something like that. It's so strange,
and it's so light in the mix though that's right. It does that thing where you're like, what is it? What is it? What could it be?
Like you said though, where you know something happens and I'm like, it only is there for a brief amount of time. You have to go back. I'm like, what is that? Like there's something extra here that isn't you know Brian going fucking apeshit, which he definitely fucking does on this as well. So many great fills on this song. I mean, one thing I love, especially with the galloping parts that Scott does, is that there's all of this like double kick play that he'll do with those riffs, and it just creates the whole package for it. It's amazing. It's so good.
That's like that. I'm not as fluent in grind as you guys are. Like it's for me, it's more like the more metallic.
I speak annoying.
Right. The more metallic the stuff is kind of where my brain starts to get. It's like, all right, now I'm bring it on kind of thing. And or as like Swindle said, it's got to be the weirdest fucking thing out there for like it to latch to me. For this to be like a grind record for me to like latch on to those kind of grooves and stuff, it does seem a little bit more metallic. It seems like Scott and Brian's kind of history with like crossover thrash and like, you know, Scott's mentioned like Scott Ian is like one of his guitar heroes, or like there's some Mustaineisms in there, and Gary Holt, and like, yeah, I can hear all of that with even the back and forth, the drums and everything.
He's so funny, like with the influences for sure. Like, yeah, Scott Ian, one of my dudes, but then he's like, he also grew up playing with like his dad's like jazz band or something like that. So like, and he always will list like some of those people, huge jazz head apparently, which I just am not very knowledgeable of, but very interesting, like youth getting into music. Like I think every person that has been listed talking about Scott and his like ability has always mentioned that the guy just like digests so much different kinds of music.
But then we get to Gravedancer, which is the hit, and I think there's a one string riff at the beginning of that song.
There sure
Love
is
a one string riff.
It's good. And Dylan's right. I think this one, as you mentioned earlier, is a little bit more straightforward. It kind of has like more of just a classic chugging thrash kind of vibe to it.
Like it's Melvins, it's Honey Bucket, it's Hooch, it's just that just straightforward through it.
Yep.
And it again, a little bit more groove without it just seeming like a boring groove thing. You know, around this time frame with heavy music, that groove metal kind of tag was getting thrown around a lot by a lot of younger bands. And it almost just felt like, oh yeah, we're ripping off Pantera like 16th nature or 16th like tier away from it, but we're going to call it groove metal because we don't know what to call it. And it was all just like the riffs you would throw away. And this isn't that. This actually fits so much better and has so much groove without it just feeling like, without the band feeling like they're hacks or anything like that. It doesn't just seems like it's patronizing, and it works so well in this extreme nature. And I think this album really sets the band apart with, they're not just a grind band. They're not even just a death grind band at this point. Like it's kind of just extreme metal, right? Like there's so many different elements they're grabbing from, and this is a cool track. Like it's a straightforward, just basher.
I wasn't paying attention to the lyrics while listening to this album, but the last line from the song I can like distinctly hear without even looking at the lyrics. And the line is like, there's a 6-year-old girl dancing on my ceiling. She might as well be dancing on my grave.
Yes.
And I was just like,
dude,
what? Excuse me, sir?
when I did my like really in-depth listen, I listened to it on my tablet. So like you can see everything a lot easier there, right? I accidentally hit it where it like scrolls through the lyrics there. And like, I'm just following through going, what in the fuck is going on here? Like, this is one of Dante's pits. Like, what is going on? I don't want to gloss over it. There is a really cool kind of, it's like a post verse kind of thing where there's these bent notes and it's like, oh, it's the Pantera bends. Like you can hear it. And it's like, all right, that's like the one kind of little nuance there that you get from it. But no, it's a great fucking track. There's no reason it was a single.
Well, and then to end it with the fucking sample, which we weren't really like terribly sure what this was. Dylan found like a Reddit like post that said it was Music Promenade by Luke Ferrari. Someone also said that it might be someone rehearsing Macbeth. Don't know. If you know, please comment below. I would fucking love to know. But it's like just a bunch of people like obviously rehearsing something or like, just laughing madly with each other. And then you have all of these like kind of eerie, kind of atmospheric soundscape things that are going on behind it as well.
That takes us into Lost Cause, the song featuring Cat Cats. It starts with a very thrashy part and also like a fucking pig squeal, which is like the only time it happens on the album.
Which is, again, very just like the contrast between the fucking sample you heard and then going into something that is exponentially more intense and just ridiculous. I mean, it's one of the shortest fucking songs on the record. It's one of my favorites, but yeah, it's like right out of the gate, you're just kind of like thrown back into the fury of it.
Cat is immediate. As I mentioned, I've mentioned it twice already. As soon as the track starts, like it's undeniable who's there, like as a guest. And I would even say Jay later in the record's the same way. But immediate and just a quick burst of fucking energy on this track. Somehow I missed the pig squeal.
It's low.
So just like,
yeah, it's
like it,
yeah.
Like I missed it. Now I got to go back and like find the shit, but you follow up the single with like just a short, intense fucking just bap in the head.
Moving on to that from Sourheart, which is again like a 53-second track, but that one I do like, and Dylan kind of mentioned this as well. This sounds like Cannibal to me. This is a Cannibal Corpse.
100%.
That's awesome.
Those riffs that are based off of 3 with that type of swing, that's Cannibal Corpse 100%, and it's harmonized.
Yeah.
He's layered it, and the harmony is just slightly disharmonic. So it doesn't have that kind of melodic feel that maybe like a Crowbar harmony would, or even like a classic rock harmony, right? It's just disharmonic enough that it makes you go, it's kind of stomach churning, but it fucking fits, especially in the scope of this band.
Yeah, it's supposed to be stomach churning for certain. There's another galloping part in this song that I really loved, and then the part immediately after the gallop part. Love that part too.
It's got the one ending. Like it's one. Like it ends. Like it ends. I heard it and went, fuck.
Another instance of the doubled vocal tracks, but they're not the same in this as well. I love it. I think that's such a cool aspect of this album.
Those demonic double layered vocals. Like it just adds an air of just, it kind of feels like the devil. It's like, you go back to like The Exorcist and the layered vocals in that, or the layered vocals, the layered voices in that, and the dialogue. It's like, oh man, I think that hits at such a guttural level for a lot of people. You hear that, like, oh, there's still a creepy value to that.
Yeah, somehow it's more creepy when JR is not screaming, when he's kind of doing like the talky parts.
Yeah.
It's very unfucking settling.
Which is unsettling when he does go into a scream to open Towering Flesh. Again, another favorite track of mine for sure.
Teched out intro. Like
What?
that's some technical shit at the beginning of this track.
Oh yeah. And very fucking dissonant. Very dissonant grind at the beginning of this song.
I put ridiculous noodle riff. That's
like Carcass-esque even. Heartwork Era, or even some of their later albums like Surgical Steel has that kind of vibe to it with the articulation there.
My favorite part, though, I think it that kind of transitions this into the next arrangement. There's like a fucking pause before that main verse with that. I'm like, oh, that's so sick. That's so cool.
There's kind of a chorus in this song with no vocals, but it's just like a part that's just power chords kind of that gets played like 3 different fucking times in this song. It's kind of weird to think that like Pig Destroyer was putting a chorus in their fucking song.
It's a weird track because it's got that arpeggiated like middle part.
Yeah, the only quiet part of the whole album.
Yeah. And it does kind of feel like like the first couple listens I did, I went, oh, this is the next track. Because it does feel, it's so jarringly different. And the rest of the track kind of follows that vibe as opposed to really going back to the beginning of it. It does feel like a part 1, part 2 situation. I mean, it is I guess technically it's the longest track on the record because Gravedancer was only like 1:15 and the rest of it's a sample. So this is like the epic track on the record. You also get the shredding solo.
The shredding solo.
That solo fucking rips.
It does.
It does. It's a good solo. It's short. It works. And then you get a moshy fucking ending.
Yeah. That like very, very heavy version of the quiet part, essentially. When I on my last time through, like I knew that the solo was in this song, and I like am looking at my phone, and I'm like, oh, there's only 50 seconds left in this song. The solo can't be here, and then, and then it just fucking whacks into a shredding ass solo, and I was like, well, I'm stupid because this is Pig Destroyer. A lot can happen in 50 seconds.
Fuck, a lot can happen in 4.
Yeah. Matthew Mills, great job. I wasn't sure because I know one of the other things that was mentioned in the notes was that Scott Hull was like had an Yngwie Malmsteen face. I was like, oh, maybe maybe I'm sure he's capable, but you got this guy with a big neoclassical kind of shredding background. It worked. It worked really great for the song.
And then it takes us into Song of Filth. The beginning of this song also very fucking dissonant.
Loads of dissonance on it. The entire record even.
I wrote, it's so fast, it's hilarious. There's like the kind of sliding riffs on this track. One of my other main parts of this was there's like a drum break.
The vocals during that part are fucking crazy.
Yes. But in the drums in particular, they almost kind of sounded fake the way they were being played. I was like, what is happening here?
Yeah. That drum break is like a lot of fucking double bass, and JR is doing like, there's not much guitar. There's like some guitar stabs. They have some effect on JR's voice, and I was just like, I don't know what's going on here, but I know I don't fucking like it. I don't like what's happening.
Verminous. The opening lyrics to this are my favorite fucking lyrics on the entire record. When she touches me, it's like a rodent sifting through garbage. That is, I saw that, stopped it, played it 2 more times, was like, and the line after that's just as creepy, but that one just stuck out. I went, we've all felt that way.
That's not nice for either party involved.
No, we have all felt that way.
Oh my God.
Dylan's going to get that fucking tattooed on. That's going to be above his mastodon.
What do you mean I haven't already got it done?
It's right here.
I went to the holler place here in Franklin and got it done. What
Big-
a fucking line.
Big fucking octave riff.
Oh,
start
yeah.
off this joint.
That's some death metal shit.
I like there's the riff at like 50 seconds. Fucking pauses and bends and
harmonics again.
So that riff made me really think, and Swindle may get this too, made me think of something off Clients. Like the way it's paced.
Yes, I thought the same thing. Yes.
Like I heard all the jarring kind of back and forth. I was like, oh yeah, like just disjointed shit. Like, oh yeah, this is the red chord.
But what year did that come out? I don't remember.
The following year.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah, Clients is old.
Then we got Torture Ballad.
I thought Morbid Angel riff to start us out.
Oh, 100%. I said Hate Eternal, but same difference.
You might be surprised to know that there's gallops and it's dissonant.
Yes, it's very dissonant death metal.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, it sounds like, yeah, it does sound like something Rutan would have like come up with, like kind of just that groove to it.
So there's a 2-step in it. At like 35 seconds, I heard the riff after that and I kept going, where is this going? I just went to like my record shelf and went, what does this remind me of? And I went, motherfucker, there's no way. Amon Amarth.
Oh, interesting.
Like in very weird way. It's more so, I've always compared Amon Amarth to kind of like Bolt Thrower-esque. So like it's probably more so that than anything, but it's that mid-tempo kind of grooving, like string skipping kind of riffs. And I heard that went, fuck, it just sounds like old Amon Amarth.
There is a riff in the song that I thought sounded like Seek and Destroy, but played like 1,000 miles an hour, like so fucking fast. But it reminded me so much of that, like da 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 da.
There's the great quote. I mean, it's Scott quoting Danny Loker about like the songwriting aspect of it. It was like, we're trying to write the catchiest, like, memorable parts, but we're just speeding them up. And this record, I think definitely takes note of that. Like there's so many great melodic parts and memorable parts at that. And it's just, a million fucking miles a minute.
Then we got Restraining Order Blues with a big old fucking pause, big old metal pause.
I will say this also kind of sounds pretty straightforward to me. I thought this was like their more hardcore punk influence kind of
100%. I felt the exact same way on this one. Again, it's a fun song. It's a shorter one. Not to say that any of these tracks are fucking long by any means. It's just a fun one. Like the riff at like 20 seconds in is fucking killer.
That riff like 20 seconds in was the one I took note on. It's a cool riff and also very fucking fast.
Yes. This is to add to what you stated, like this is as punk and hardcore as it gets. It almost sounds like more like the Book Burner stuff, because that's like a little bit more punkin' vein in some areas. I felt had that great EP that followed along with it. And I think some of the Melvin's groove you get in the back of this track as well.
Carrion Fairy? Slayer riff. That's a Slayer opening.
Yep. Great opening riff.
I think, I just say it to death on here. I mean, Scott's right hand is insane. I think you got a lot of Slayer influence on this track. There's a part at like 55 seconds, I thought. There's definitely a part at like 120 where there's like the toms, but it's like a galloping riff more in the line with Jeff Hanneman, and it almost sounds like Raining Blood. Like it just straight up sounds like Raining Blood to me.
I heard Sepultura and Celtic Frost in that part.
Sure.
I was like, dude, this is on a rise. This is Chaos AD. I was like, oh yeah, this is like that crossover. Just, it's locked in
right there.
The thing I noted that reminded me again of Metallica is near the end of the song, they do kind of like a big march. Like it's like just fucking power chords and the guys just like smacking on the toms. It reminds me of like And Justice for All or Ride the Lightning or some like that era.
Yeah. Great track. Really great headbanger of a track. It also ends with like a really weird sample again with like some radio stuff and like a dog barking. And then you hear some glass break, which we've heard on a couple tracks before.
Also, fade outs seem so weird for Pig Destroyer. Like it does not seem like grind bands should have a song that fades out.
I go back to our Ripping Corpse episode with the fade out on one of the tracks. And it's like, what? Where's this coming from? Downpour Girl.
Oof, another favorite.
I mentioned Bolt Thrower earlier. And there's no way this isn't like kind of aping from that territory. It's mid-paced, it's heavy, it's just fucking brutal. Great track.
That opening riff is so cool. It makes it definitely one of my favorite songs. And you know, we get a lot of like shifting around as far as like tempo and the grooves. I mean, it goes from more of like a death metal part, and then we got like kind of like octave chord guitar harmonies in like the later part of the song. This has all the riffs on it.
I love the part near the end that's like a 3-note riff that he turns into a way longer riff. He changes back into the 3-note riff to end the song. I fucking love that.
That is one of my favorite riffs on the entire record. That whole variation of just that adjusting. And you know, we've talked about tons of albums throughout the last couple of years that can take 1 or 2 riffs and just make a great song out of it. And this is no different. Like the Pig Destroyer guy, Scott, like can take one riff and really write a whole song out of just that one riff. We get to, I actually wrote mine down wrong. So we get to Soft Assassin, which is up there with one of the better song titles on the album. The things I have going through my head about that song title right now is terrifying. Chaotic death metal intro riff, just pure fucking chaos. Like, and I like it. It comes back with the dissonance too.
Brutal, like palm muted chugging.
Oh,
like, it's so heavy.
Yeah, there's a lot of those dissonant breaks in between like fast kind of tempo parts. I love the kind of like palm muted riff that ends the song. I mean, yeah, I don't know. There's just so much to love about this record. I feel like I'm just going from track to track. That riff's good. This riff is also good.
That's what this whole fucking show is.
Yeah,
that riff's good.
You get a record like we did last week, and it's like there aren't a ton of riffs on that record. It's just a really long kind of grandiose thing, and then you get a record like this that's like there's 21 songs on here and every single song's got a pretty solid fucking riff in it.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, there's balance in the world. It's just some weird way you do a 75-minute fucking like kind of masturbatory session, and then it's you get 32 minutes of just like, whew, we're good.
Yeah. Dead Carnations. Minute and 30. Instant breakfast. This one's pretty consistent. I feel like they have like they picked a riff and they really like stuck with it all the way through. My really big highlight of this track in particular was kind of like the crazy drum solo ending in the song for sure that Brian does.
I noted that we've talked about Scott's right hand being fast in a lot of the songs. And this song, I noted that his left hand had to be very fast because he was like all over the fucking place in this song.
Those chords be progressive.
Right. Yeah. Also, there's like a very short like guitar run. That's just kind of like a little link in between parts that I loved. And also there's like, near the end, there's a riff with like syncopated snare hits along with like chord hits or like hits. I really like that part.
Crippled Horses. The companion piece to Goodbye Horses.
Yeah.
Again, wild octave hardcore riff to intro it up. Again, you get more of that kind of killer PXDX groove in here. Again, just huge, like, just kind of sliding riffs, and it's a mess in the best way fucking possible.
Right.
There's a Full of Hell track on the first record called Pile of Dead Horses. It's just like, man, what's going on? And they're from kind of that area of the world too. So I don't know what's going on in fucking Maryland, DC, Virginia area. But there's a fucking great breakdown harmony guitar on that octave riff. There's the double bass. It sounds so huge and epic. Definitely a standout riff on the album itself for sure.
Crazy patterns on those drums. Like that's very much Swindle, what's the Pantera track with the crazy kick drums? Thank you. It's got that kind of like just locked in kind of thing going on. The sludgy, just huge sludgy doomy riffage on this thing is just balls to the wall.
Then we get maybe the most normal title for a song that Pig Destroyer has ever written. Song's titled "The Gentleman."
Nothing,
nothing
gentlemanly about this record.
Nope.
This is another song that is like, this is another riff that's like 3 notes. They are just like, we're just gonna play 3 notes over and over and over again.
With that left hand though, he's got like, I call him like that finger stretching like riffs though. He's like, you could tell it's less of a, chug, but it's kind of melodic or whatever. But you could tell like this motherfucker is stretching on that fretboard.
There's some dexterity here with a lot of his playing and his style, especially with using some of those. They're definitely octaves, but the way he's playing them, it's not like he's actually doing the octave shape. He's hitting one note on a higher string and going to that note on the lower string, and he's kind of bouncing back and forth between them to give it this weird effect. Again, you get a little bit more of that Cannibal kind of swing on this track, which I do like. I do feel like the second half of this record is a lot more kind of like death groove centric than maybe the front half. And again, if I listened to the album immediately after this, I'd probably tell you that the front half had it more than the back half because it's just all over the record. I will say that all the tracks are fun. I had a lot of fun with this record, but at like track 18, 19, 20, I'm like, fuck, all right. I'm kind of getting lost a little bit because it's just like, it's so intense that it's like, whew, I gotta have a breath for a second. And then it's like, all right, that breath was 10 seconds. I've missed half the song.
Then we got the Crawl of Time with a very chaotic start to this song. Yes.
Just nails on a fucking chalkboard. It's terrifying. Just screaming.
It's fast. Yeah, it kind of like a great circle pit part. I could definitely see a lot of kids just like running around, just complete chaos, shit getting thrown up in the air. But then you get like this kind of like descending melodic finger riff about halfway through it. And then, just overall the conversation that's happening between those guitars and the drums on this, that's happened all over the record. It's really impressive when you go through it.
There are some Dave Lombardo beats in this track for sure. Like stuff off of like Haunting the Chapel or Rain and Blood, like those crazy Dave Lombardo like ride cymbal play that he does and the double kicks. Like, yeah, it's not ashamed to wear their influences on their sleeves, but also giving their own spin on it.
And then we reach the end, the title track, Teriffyer, which sounds a lot different than a lot of this record. It's a very different pace.
I don't know if it's like the chord choices, they're like the particular like phrasing, the progressing that's happening here, it is very different. I don't know if there's like an effect. It almost kind of makes it sound like an organ to me at times. But I feel like there's just something about the overall tone or again, the chord choices that's being used in this track. It's like, yeah, it's very different from anything we've heard so far on the record.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, very, the whole song is dissonant.
Yep.
And every riff on the song is so cool. They're all very cool fucking riffs.
I've been revisiting some of the Immolation catalog within the last handful of days, and there's stuff on this track that feels right out of that wheelhouse. This great dissonant, slow, dirging thing that's just huge sounding. And this song is like 2 parts. That's it.
Like there's a very, very fucking big part to end the record. Like that last riff is crazy, but before that there's like a little drum fill, but it seems like the part comes in like half a beat too late. It's like there's like the drum fill, a pause, and then they all start. And like when I listen to it, I'm just like, did they fuck up? But like they probably just wrote it weird to be
sure,
like assholes, but it just seems like a half a beat off, and then they get to this enormous part to end.
It's
the
so
fucking
cool
record.
that like guitar break, and then it's fucking nuts, man. So good. Yeah, I mean, we clock in at 32 minutes, 14 seconds. And then, yeah, we have this like essentially a companion piece that they were released together at some point, but Natasha, which is longer than the fucking record itself, 37 minutes, 55 seconds, a Doom song originally released as like in like DVD audio format, 5.1 surround sound. And they say it was meant to be heard in this format. But you know, I listened to this too. It's very ambient. It's got a like, I love when bands do that. I don't know why it made me think of Mind Eraser, where there is their third record, I think, where, you know, it's like basically like fast, like hardcore kind of power violence band. And then at one point they kind of release like almost like a Doom inspired record on the third. I love when bands, they just show you that one, we could do whatever the fuck we want, but then they do it so well. And Natasha is definitely like that, where you got ambience and all these soundscapes, but then you kind of have like these weird vocal samples, and there's like repetitive kind of like pummeling riff all throughout the track. Kind of reminds me of like ISIS and Con8 and all those types of bands as well.
The original artwork for the first release of Natasha is pretty jarring. It's that kind of looks like a porcelain doll. Has the blood on the lips. It makes me think of, there's a Dax Riggs solo record that has something very similar to that as well. But it's very jarring. It fits in scope with what we're seeing with the band already. You know, it's an interesting fucking track. It really is. And it is great to see a band going, hey, we've been known for this grind thing that we're good at, and we know we're good at, and we've done it for so long. Like, we can do this too. And I'm sure that draws from the Melvins' influence of just releasing, fuck it, we're going to do this type of track. Who's to say we can't do whatever we want? And we've got a label that's okay with releasing things like this and going into kind of these multimedia worlds that we're doing. And, you know, we're releasing a track that should only be listened in Dolby is pretty fucking nuts, especially in like 2004. Again, I probably listened to Natasha, I think 3 or 4 times in preparation for this. And it's like, it doesn't even feel or sound like the same band, but it very clearly is.
After the release, like, as we've talked about, these people have lives and jobs. So they didn't do, and they're not road dogs. They're not like fucking Metallica and after the Black Album, but they do a few shows. They do a CMJ showcase. They do the release party for this record. They play with Misery Index, Total Fucking Destruction, and Drugs of Faith.
Which I think Drugs of Faith has Richard Johnson in it from Enemy Soil and stuff. So
A&B also is in.
Yep.
Dick Johnson. They do go on a UK tour with Total Fucking Destruction, Halo, and Narcosis. Then they kind of just, if there is one thing about Pig Destroyer, they will do a fucking fest. They will play.
Yes, they will.
They will fucking play fests.
They keep those tickets rolling at the Decibel Metal and Beer Festival or whatever the fuck.
Are we alternating Carcass and Pig Destroyer at the holidays again this year?
They play.
Dad, this is your Thanksgiving.
In 2005, they play Relapse Records South by Southwest Showcase. They play Mac Rock in Virginia and the Maryland Death Fest. 2005, they go back to Europe to tour with Rotten Sound.
Hell yeah.
I don't know how to say that band.
Ling Chi or whichever.
Sure.
And
Relapse Band.
And they do go on a short run in the West, mostly in California, but one day in Tijuana, Mexico with Phobia, Uphill Battle, and Triac, which is interesting to note because they will take a member of Triac, Blake, to be on the next record.
And also, I'm almost fairly certain that Dick Johnson, Richard Johnson, was also in that band too.
Right. And another interesting thing about this run of shows is that first show, or not the first show, that CD release party, they play with Misery Index, which is interesting to note because members of that band will also go on to be in Pig Destroyer.
Old Adam Jarvis got behind the kit.
Right. So this might have been like they might have been meeting folks that would become very relevant to this band on this album release cycle. At some point, it's rumored maybe that there is going to be a collaboration with the band Zombie, called Zombie Destroyer, but that has never come to fruition in the time since then.
I mean, obviously they played that showcase, that CMJ showcase with them. I saw a Lamb Goat report of that, but yeah, I couldn't. I'm assuming it just kind of fell to the wayside as things do. Yeah, I mean, they essentially begin recording the next record in like 2007, early like January. This is the first time they go to a new studio, Omega Studios. They did release a split with Cold Worker and Anti-Gamma.
That's how I've always pronounced it. Yeah.
Sure. In like May of 2007, somebody's like yelling at their fucking computer or whatever. They do an Integrity cover and an Unsane cover, and then the record would ultimately come out that same year in June through Relapse. But I'm sure we'll get to that at some point. That's just a couple highlights I thought were interesting that we'd cover to kind of lead the listener. But this fucking record rules. Y'all rule. Yeah. What do y'all think? Coming out on the other side of it, I'd love to hear your take on it. Why did we start with this record? Why do you love it? Why do you hate it?
I really like this record. I really like Pig Destroyer. I mean, I have a deep fondness for music that pisses people off and annoys people. That is like my fucking bread and butter in art. So, I think like I probably, if I had just picked my personal favorite, I probably would have picked Phantom Limb. And it's just because that was the first one I listened to. But I think Teriffyer is a good place to start because like I said at the beginning, most people prefer Teriffyer over Phantom Limb.
Yep. It's a good blending too, right? It's still a blending of the roots along with where they're going. So you get all of that kind of mixed together. Whereas maybe Phantom Limb, maybe even more critically acclaimed, even though this one got a lot of critical acclaim when it came out, even being touted as one of the best albums of like the last 20 years or something along those lines.
Rolling Stone said is one of the best metal one of the 100 best metal albums of all time.
That's wild to even say that. And it's like, for all intents and purposes, it's a grind record.
Yeah.
And to get that type of praise for something like that is wild. But I agree. This is a good starting point for a lot of people. This would be one of those records to hand to somebody that's like, hey, I've heard what I know of grind is Napalm Death, early Napalm Death. What I know of death metal is death. Well, maybe you'll like this. It's a little bit, it's a blending of both those things, but kicked in the nuts 4 times.
It's a great record. It features such a diverse and rich, kind of culmination of influences that you could take and really just run with. And like all of us play guitar, like, the gallops and just the intensity. I mean, there's so much going on here that you could learn from. And, it definitely blew me away when I first heard it. I think this is just such an influential band. I mean, for, grind in the 21st century. I mean, you could really just kind of take this record and, I think a lot of people have and have really, kind of carried the torch forward. But this is another band that just continued to get really weird and different after this release. They weren't content with staying in the same lane. They wanted to, try new things and use different influences. And I'm sure we'll talk about it when we get to it.
You hit a really good point. Grind is still really underground, still really, really underground. Death metal's kind of, bubbles up every so often. But for grind in like the 21st century, especially during this era of it, like this was kind of the band that probably helped a lot of people get into like grind, you know, really moving forward. They were on a bigger label. They still are on a bigger label, had videos, had a lot of promotion behind them. You know, you hear all of these other bands that may be larger, you know, maybe more palatable that are mentioning Pig Destroyer and all of this. And it's like, yeah, this was probably an introduction for a lot of people to this form of music.
All right. We've reached that point of the show where we like to share things we've been listening to, things we think you should check out. Speaking of some death and grind and hardcore infused music, Orange County's own SCALP released a new single, Conspiracy, that will appear on their upcoming record, Not Worthy of Human Compassion. It's going to be out July 25th through Closed Casket Activities. I was a huge fucking fan of the previous record, Black Tar. It was one of my favorite releases of that year. So this was a surprise. I was literally like kind of doom scrolling on my phone the other night, and I got the email from Closed Casket Activities. I'm like, hey, pre-order. I'm like, don't even need to fucking hear it. I just want it. The album cover looks fucking amazing. The song is incredible. It's pissed off. It's furious. It's disgusting. 13 songs, apparently going to be just under 20 minutes. They kind of list a few references here. If you're a fan of Dystopia and Terrorizer and Rotten Sound, you're going to love this record. Another track I definitely also want to recommend as well from kind of a similar area in LA, White Noise, new single by a band called Faetooth. I did not know anything about this band. I did see that they were going to put out a release on the Flenser. That'll be out September 5th. It's called Labyrinthine. Sorry if I fucked that up. This is going to be a follow-up to their debut Remnants of the Vessel from 2022. Great fucking doom track. Love it. Plenty of great. I'm looking forward to the release. I just really taken by this song for sure.
That band's definitely more in that kind of like old school traditional doom kind of feel. Like I actually checked them out a couple weeks ago for the first time too. I saw I think Dunnable shared one of their tracks, and I was like, oh fuck it, I'll give it a shot. And like that Remnants of Vessel album was a lot of fun for sure. So I'll definitely need to check this out.
Yeah, they got some upcoming dates too. Going to be touring the US with Slow Crush September 4th through the 17th. So if they're in your area, you can check it out and hopefully catch them.
The first I'd heard of Faetooth is they went on like a run in April with our friends in Sunrot. They went on a little tour with them. I am going to stick with the RVA family, the Richmond, Virginia family, and I'm going to recommend It Wasn't a Compliment by Pygmy Lush. It's the second single off of their upcoming album Totem that's going to be out on July 11 via Persistent Vision Records. It sounds very different than the first single, and it kind of sounds different than like a lot of their slower, more quiet songs. It's dissonant and octave chords, kind of sounds like post-hardcore a little bit. I'm very interested in the fact that this album is coming out 9 years after it was recorded, because it was recorded in 2016 and they're just now releasing it. So I'm interested in hearing the story about what has happened with this record.
I got two. I'm going to one of them I'm going to keep in the Pig Destroyer vein. A few nights ago, I was doing research for this and kind of went down a grind rabbit hole, and finally took a chance and listened to Asuk for the first time. And I went with their Misery Index record. It's 15 fucking minutes long. It's intense. It's the perfect blending of like death and like early grind for me. The production is flawless. And I did some research, and it was done at Morris Sound Studios and fucking Scott Burns. Like, come on. I just saw everything about that would be a band I would like. But I had a work trip earlier today, and like, I just put it on in the car. It's like, I can listen to this twice. This thing's rad. So if you're like me and you've never heard this band before, check them out, listen to them. The next one is a new track. One of my favorite death metal bands of all time, Revocation, with their newest single, Cronenberg, which features Johnny Davey of Job for a Cowboy on guest vocals. It's their second single off of their upcoming new album, New Gods, New Masters, which will be released on September 26th of this year. It's their 9th full length on Metal Blade Records. It is everything you would expect from this band. The band gets more death metal oriented with every release. There is a galloping section in the middle part of this song that just keeps fucking going. And it's like, how are they doing this? What's going on? And then you're immediately kicked into like what you get with Revocation, which are these flawlessly done solos. Dave Davidson is one of the best modern guitar players I've ever seen. He's got a style unto his own. It's like classic rock thrash with this jazz thing that he's known for in there. And he hits he checks every box for me as a guitarist, and he sings and does all this stuff. This is also the first release with new bassist Alex Weber, who I am a massive fan of.
Damn. I can't imagine the images going to my mind on the verb Cronenberg. You got Cronenberg.
Yeah.
Just
the videos.
Things popping
killer.
up out of all sorts of different crevices and places for sure. But that's it. Check it all out. It's all linked below. You can follow us at Instagram and Twitter via Riff Worship Pod. You can also email us at that same address, riffworshippod@gmail.com. We have official playlists that are also linked below. Hits from the Crypt on Apple Music, as well as riffs on repeat on Spotify. You can also check out our YouTube page where Dylan does reviews of some contemporary records. But yeah, it's been fun. Listen to Pig Destroyer. I don't know if have you guys ever heard of Pig Destroyer? That's pretty cool. We'll be back next week, I'm sure with something else, but for myself, for Swindle, for Dylan, for Matt Graham. We love Matt Graham. Bye, Matt Graham. See y'all later. I don't know.